It's your favorite nurse, Stephanie, and welcome to Planned Senior Moments. This is the podcast that helps you learn how to keep your parents safe, avoid unnecessary hospitalizations, and support them in aging in place with dignity and confidence. Most of my clients come to me during a time of crisis. Mom's in the hospital, things have changed drastically, and suddenly you're scrambling to come up with a plan of care. But it doesn't have to be that way. With each episode, I'll share real-life stories, expert advice, and practical tips so that you can be proactive, not reactive when it comes to senior care. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome to our guests who have tuned in today for our episode of Planned Senior Moments. Today, we are joined by Deena Goldstein, CEO of Measurability. Thank you, Deena, for joining us today. I'm so excited that our listeners have an opportunity to learn more about measurabilities and how you can help our seniors age in place safely and avoid unnecessary hospitalizations. So if you could, Deena, just start by telling us more about yourself and how measurability started, and then we'll dig a little deeper into the services that you offer.
All right, first, thanks for having me, Stephanie. I love what you're doing, how you're educating the public on the different services that are available. And we are indeed one of those services. We're unique. My husband and I have owned the company for 13 plus years. He's a physical therapist, and what we do is a little bit unique. Seniors often find themselves, whether they're getting discharged from the hospital or they've had a surgery or they're simply needing safety in the home, they don't know where to go. And in the age of the internet, it's no longer the yellow pages where people are flipping pages and looking for mom and pop shop. What happens is it's not enough to identify, oh, I need something. The person's looking for a solution, but they don't know where to go. So we are that one-stop shop, like you and I spoke about earlier today. What we do is we go out, we have an occupational therapist that goes out to do a free home safety assessment. She will address any concerns related to issues where there's balance, there's been prior falls, or simply somebody being proactive, or as I like to call it, intervention is prevention, because the problem is a lot of people wait till there's a crisis and then they're busy putting out a fire. We will go into the home. Our occupational therapist will do a comprehensive home safety assessment, interior, exterior, whatever's needed, any room in the house. She'll make recommendations, and then we provide, deliver, and install whatever's needed. And the way that we started is, Sandy, my husband's been practicing physical therapy for years. He, of course, saw so many patients that dealt with these falls. Why are people falling at home? What's going on? And what we see is when people are being discharged from the hospital, you had this transitional period, which is a very high rate of fall risk. People are going home, they're going from a cocoon suddenly to I'm home. I no longer have somebody with a gait belt. I don't have a safety grab bar. I don't have all the things that they've had in place, modifications to keep them safe in the commode, etc. And they go home, and then it's panic time, and the family's going, I don't know what to do. Let's go on Amazon. Let's order this. Let's do. And just because you need a bar doesn't mean it's the right size, it's appropriate, it's ADA, etc. So we recognized that there was this gap. Nobody was going in the home from discharge. And what happens is very quick rate of bounce back to the hospital. The cost to the system is astronomical, and the cost to the family is astronomical. And sometimes it's a new normal because people don't always bounce back from injuries. In fact, 40% of nursing home admissions are due to falls in the home that could have been avoided. So we wanted to fill that gap, and we wanted to be a one-stop shop where people could come to us. We will take care of the assessment. We understand what's going on physically. We will also provide the solutions.
That is wonderful, Deena. I'm just thinking in my mind all the families that I help because that's what I do. And unfortunately, you're right. It normally is time of crisis. Mom's in the hospital. There's been a stroke, a worsening of a medical condition, and we've got 2 to 3 weeks to figure this out. If mom's coming home, how are we going to care for her? Things have changed, right? She's going to need a lot of help. We're going to need equipment. We're going to need grab bars. So they have to do all of this in 3 weeks before there's a discharge. For a lot of our seniors, when things start changing or there's a new diagnosis, we have to accept the fact that there's going to be some changes, maybe not now, but certainly in the future. And we want to plan for those things so that we can not be in that statistic of someone who falls and goes to the hospital and now needs a much higher level of care. So you guys do some really cool things. First of all, PTOT, right? So they're trained professionals. They understand the diagnoses and what the changes are going to be over the coming years or decades so that they can help them prepare for those things. But specifically related to falls, can we talk about some of your fall prevention methods to assist our seniors in the home?
Sure. We have a wide berth of things that we do in terms of solutions or modifications. When she goes into the home, there might be things that the family can do. You might need to move furniture, lighting, all the things that you see written on the CDC that are very basic, cursory things, but they're very critical. And then there's things that maybe the family needs our help with, which would be first and foremost, most people address safety grab bars, shower chairs, drop down shower heads. We get a lot of buildup on the shower floor of soap, shampoo, and even though we clean, it's very slippery. And there's actually a National Floor Safety Institute. It's a true place. And they did studies on floor friction safety. They call it the coefficient of friction. And so I always joke around, I'm going Bill Nye Science Guy on you, but friction matters on the floor because what happens is people lose their footing, right? So you might be seated when you're in the shower in a chair, but you do need to get up and you're getting out of the shower. Either you're stepping over, or if you're lucky, you have a walk-in shower. Either way, it's slippery with water and whatever else. And so what we do is we have a product, we do non-slip treatment in the shower, on the floor, anywhere there's a flooring surface, even out by the pool. And what it does, it's like a perm, even though the men probably have never had a perm that are listening, but that's okay. I'll explain it. It opens up the root, the pore of the surface, and it's an etching process, and we neutralize it. You would never know it was on there unless the floor is wet and you have that increased grab, and it dramatically reduces falls. And so for different floor surfaces, we have different products. And so even in those acrylic molded showers, we can create that non-slip. That's a big thing. We do custom ramps and railings. We do barrier-free showers. We had the opportunity, a really beautiful experience as a woman who wanted to live independently, identified a home, and was wheelchair bound. And we created a shower room for her with a Hoyer lift system. She was able to independently move throughout her home and her shower area and have her ADLs in there independently. And we do all kinds of things. And even we started doing some home safety with electronics, applications for people that have auditory or visual issues where they need something blinking, or learning how to use that app on your watch for fall prevention. We can go in as part of the assessment and identify what's need, train people on medication, applications and things like that, and install, et cetera. So all kinds of things. We're more than bars, I always tell people.
There's so much to this, and we are going to have
So
future
much.
episodes where we really dig into each specific topic. However, the non-slip treatment for the floors, what does, I mean, can it be put on any floor? What's the treatment process? Do they have to move out of the house? How long does it take? Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so it's actually a pretty quick curing process. We'll go into a shower, put it on, and then when we leave the house, you can use your shower. For an acrylic shower, there's a small cure time, and then our guy will tell you what that is when he goes out. A lot of the pool decking area around here, I don't know why they use travertine out west, but it's like Holiday on Ice without the leotard. And it's very slippery, and we do a lot of exterior so that I know we went into one home where the mom, they just redid their entire pool area and they got travertine, not realizing it's very porous and it was very slippery. And so their children were slipping. So we went out and did that as well. So any surface, we've done commercial, we've done residential, but it does make a difference. It really does. Especially
Absolutely.
that
So
area from the shower to the sink. You take
yes,
that little walk.
the place nobody wants to fall, right?
Yes, the place
After
nobody wants to fall, but
after the shower, no clothing, here comes the fire department. Now,
yeah,
now
yeah.
you're injured and embarrassed. And
And we
unfortunately, that's where
know,
it happens.
and we know what happens, the mortality rate, the fire department will tell you that the longer you're down on the ground, the higher your mortality rate goes. So people that are falling, that don't have a method to communicate, keeping a phone in the bathroom, a life alert, these things matter because it's great if you have safety in the shower, but now you need to get to the sink because you want to brush your teeth and maybe dry your face. And area rugs, if you have to have a rug, then you make sure it's rubber non-slip. But we don't like area rugs. They curl up and just like bath mats and things like that. So you want to have some kind of protection on the floor. So those things are all important considerations.
Absolutely. That is one thing I educate all my families on. That's the first thing I see are those rugs. And they're slippery even when they're dry,
Oh
but
yeah.
you get a little bit of moisture under a rug and it's a slip and slide. So these measures are so important and they really will prevent those injuries. And I think you shared with me at one point a statistic of the percentage of people who fall that end up now requiring, could you, like a high level of
40%, yeah,
care?
40% of nursing home admissions are due to falls in the home.
Wow.
And I
That's
always
so
tell
bad.
people, you're great now, but it takes one fall to redirect your life because we know statistically that the more falls that happen, the greater the risk of additional falls happening. And how many times are you going to just skate by without getting that injury? When we started this business, my father was a really strong guy. He was a horseback rider. And I watched him go into surgery for lung cancer, come home, get discharged with a walker. Nobody came to the home to look at the carpet tile transition or to see if he knew how to use it or to look at his bathroom because the commode was low and he fell. And this is the kind of thing that can be avoided. They're simple. You don't have to fall. You don't have to be sitting on a commode that's low. There are ways to elevate the commode if you have lower extremity weakness. We can do it from the base, we can do it from the top. There's a variety of solutions, but a clinician understands what those limitations are and how to appropriately solve them. And that's what we do. You have to know what's going on physically. There's a great statistic that I always share when I'm educating. It's from the British and American Geriatric Societies that says that research has shown that clinically guided fall prevention, addressing it clinically, is as effective for reduction of falls as statins are for cardiovascular
Wow.
disease, which is enormous. So that clinical approach is critical.
Absolutely, it is. And I'm going to go back to a statement you made about not being found and what happens medically, and it can lead to death. And I believe the term is rhabdomyolysis. And for some of our clients, I've had some on the floor for 2, 3 days before someone found them,
Yeah,
because they live alone. They didn't have a caregiver, no spouse. Luckily for them, either a neighbor or someone was checking on them because they were concerned. They hadn't heard from them. So they did a wellness check, and that's where they were found.
it's very
Um,
common.
it
It's
is,
very
and
common.
it's more common than people realize, and it's so preventable. It is just so preventable. Okay, so the home modification, we talked about that, but the safety technology, dig a little deeper into that.
So there's a lot of we live in a world where everything is technology. And now from an Apple Watch that has an app that can detect if you fall to children that live out of state that want to monitor mom, make sure she's okay if there's no movement in the house after a certain amount of time. They do, like you said, a well visit, medication. There's medication devices and monitoring systems. So we can go in the home, identify what's needed, come out, install it, and train the family. And we do that with smart home systems, blinking lights, automatic doors, Alexa, whatever it is that assists the family, adjunctive to what we're already doing, like standard modifications, whether we're doing bed rails or bars in the shower or ramps or what have you. These are other considerations that are also helpful as well.
Deena, this is wonderful. There are so many topics that I look forward to digging into a little bit deeper for our audience, specifically how you help with Parkinson's. And it can be a long trajectory, right? Doing really well for a very long time, and then suddenly things begin to change. To our viewers, please stay tuned for that because we're going to dig in deeper on how you really partner with organizations here in the Valley and specifically for Parkinson's. Deena, for our viewers, what's the best way for them to contact your organization to gather more information and schedule an assessment?
So there's a couple of ways. So we're on the internet. If you want to check us out, you can go to www.measurabilities.com, and it's the word measure with no E on the end. So it's Measure Abilities. And you can also call our office at 480-214-9725. Anybody can help you. You can ask for me, but you can ask for any of the staff. Call to ask questions. If we can't be a resource for you, we will assist you in finding the resource that you need. But we're here to help.
Wonderful. Thank you, Deena. I appreciate you taking the time to come on today and educate our guest, and we look forward to that next episode where we dig a little bit deeper.
That sounds great, Stephanie. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you.